Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Truuman podcast, the podcast designed to create a self-defined generation of men. Today, I'm joined by James Bryant, the founder of the Mindful Gent. James, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Well, this is a new year, new me, new podcast. Well, same podcast, but I would love to get an understanding of what is the Mindful Gent and what is James Bryant.
Good question. So I created the Mindful Gen as I wanted to help other men who are maybe struggling with their emotional well-being, with feelings of being stuck, helpless, alone, to be their true, authentic self. This is through one-to-one coaching, either with me as a qualified coach or group coaching. So I also provide, and they can come along to one of our group coaching events or attending one of our mindfulness events, which I can give you an example of. That one of which is I meet on a Saturday or a Sunday. I started just before Christmas 2023 to do mindfulness walks in the park for guys that don't know each other, so they've never met. Small groups between 6 and 8, come out, get some fresh air, and have a chat. Really, not necessarily about their feelings or what's going on, but maybe just getting them out of the house. And I wanted to provide an alternative activity than going to the gym or sport. So it was a big pusher for me, having mindfulness activities, which I've got on the website, which I'm hoping to include things like pottery and jewelry making, which is a passion of mine because I love fashion, etc. And things like, just chatting to other men that doesn't include sport or booze, basically. I believe they have the power to change your life like it did mine.
Yeah, amazing. I like it. It's a nice angle. I think you're right. That is the current go-to strategy is sport, booze, gym, and one of the things that I sort of champion right now is that we are, as men, have a we're in a perfect time frame where it's okay to do an infinite or a myriad of things that you want to choose to do, and whatever you decide to do and whatever you find gives you mindfulness or gives you an outlet is totally fine. It's just finding what that is and sort of going through that. So I really do champion the sort of angle that you've gone with there. It's great. Explain how you got into that. How did you start doing this? Why the Mindful Gem started?
Yeah, so it started because I, just to give you a bit of background, I was at my corporate job. I joined a global property company when I was young 20s. Seems like a long time ago now. And I thought I wanted to go down the corporate route, wearing the suit, earning some, fairly decent wage, seeing myself as a bit more kind of, a bit more, what's the word? A bit taking myself a bit more seriously in the suit, going to the office every day, going to the meetings, meeting, potential, networking, meeting other guys, girls, always in a suit and always with work. And I liked property, so it kind of got me in. It was really good. I trained for 4 years to get my become to become a member of the Royal Institute, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, which was a great achievement for me, and I really enjoyed that. But it soon became apparent to me that actually this world that I was in wasn't for me. It wasn't so much other people that I was meeting, but I found myself not being myself when I was in these situations, networking, just being in the office. I wasn't being myself. And it brought back memories of not being myself at school and at university. And I kind of just, that was enough for me. I couldn't do it anymore. I wanted to be myself. I wanted to just be James, or find out who that was. And through, actually, I eventually got quite depressed in this, thinking about not being myself. Went to HR at work, and they put me in touch with a coach. And to kind of cut a long story short, I worked with my coach for about 18 months. And I think it sounds a long time for me to actually move and to actually change my line of thought, but I was so institutionalized at work, I couldn't even imagine a different career, getting out of a suit. That was crazy to me. Crazy talk, like doing a different avenue of work. How was I going to earn this money? I had a mortgage to pay. It was a huge leap for me, and I just couldn't see it. So Nikki, my coach, she got me to see a pathway, and through, the little that I understood about coaching then, which was quite a while ago, and I left. And I left because one of the reasons was Nikki worked for a company. My coach worked for a mental health platform, which provides, and they provide coaches, counsellors, psychologists to employees. So as an employee, I was able to go to one of them for advice. And the founder of this wellbeing platform, shout out to Joel, who's the founder of Mind Up. Again, a long story short, I got friends with Joel. He called me one day after a coaching session, and he was like, "James, how's it going?" And I was in a really crap place, like really bad. I ended up working for Joel for 2 years. So
Amazing.
I went from working from corporate world to a mental health platform, and it changed my life. Yeah.
It's a nice story. It's a good way of getting into it as well. I think you mentioned the 18 months, which is quite an apt amount of time. I'm probably about coming up to 2 years now, I think, on my journey of self-discovery and sort of mindfulness.
Oh, no way. Well, congratulations, and good effort doing it.
Yeah, thank you. So, and I was thinking about it actually the other day, and it's like, I sort of look back and I'm like, have I come far or have I not come very far? And it's like some things you really overanalyze and sort of really go, actually, I'm not much further along on that scope. But on other things, you're like, wow, I've made such a huge progress, which for me was quite a nice self-reflective sort of exercise that I did the other night actually. But yeah, it's quite interesting that you say that, and I think it's something that for people that are potentially listening, and probably sort of with yourself with potential clients as well, is like, it is a complete lifestyle change, and that's okay. And it is hard because you sort of, let's call it a rut essentially. If you're doing something for so many years, it's going to be very hard to revert that, because it's just easy, right? You're putting on the suit. If you've got 15 suits in the wardrobe, it's going to be quite hard to start changing those out for t-shirts. So it is a sort of balance and I guess not a rush to it as well, because a lot of, I guess you talked about the gym earlier. A lot of people go to the gym and panic when they've not seen results in 4 weeks. It's obviously the same with this as well. It really needs to
I'm
be.
nodding. Sorry, no, they can't hear me, but I'm nodding to all of it. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, the other thing that I sort of want to touch on is the other side of things, right? So you're talking about the passions and other things that you enjoy. How did you find those? How did they become passions? How did you go away from the traditional gym, booze, sport? How did you find those other passions?
Look, I really still enjoy the gym, and I think for me, the gym does provide an escape for working at home like I'm doing at the moment, as you can see, working in my kitchen, and I'm an advocate for the gym. I think it's a great place if you feel I'm up and down with the gym. I'm a yo-yo. I try and go 3 or 4 times a week. I was a skinny guy at school. I could never ever put any weight on, and I ate everything under the sun. Everyone used to tell me, "Oh, how are you so skinny?" And I used to be like, I used to die when they used to say that to me. It was the worst thing I hated about myself. I wasn't the kid covered in spots. I was the skinny kid, and I was also, I was also closeted, and I I think that had a big aspect to play on it as well. Not being out as uh, yet, and still working for a large corporation like I've just mentioned. So it was really, really difficult for me being skinny, not closeted, and I'm saying for me, this is like a lot of guys I know and I come across, and actually I coach, which gives me great pleasure to coach them. But I think passions, what you say, going back to, I do enjoy the gym. I like it. I think that sometimes with me, I do take it a bit too seriously. Like if I haven't been for a few days, like, oh God, I'm going to be losing muscle mass, and then I'm going to be really, really skinny again, and all that hard work is just going to, it's just going to go away. So, to the point where I feel like I need to work out when I'm on holiday or when I'm taking time off work, I need to find a gym, that sort of stuff. But, and I think each person gets the right balance with working out. And when I say the gym, I think also this includes, lots of other things like cardio, running and rowing and all that other stuff that people do that we don't really take into account when we're saying the gym. Lots of my clients, lots of my clients will say to me like, oh, I went to the gym today, but I only did like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And I say to everyone that even like you got your gym stuff on, you got out of the tracksuit, or you got out of your formal wear, you're working for work, home or in the office, and you actually went, and you had a different, your all the stuff that's going on in your head is, all the chemical balances going on in your head have changed, and you went, even if you didn't do like your full hour workout, then it's still good enough to go and just do a run or do a row or whatever you're doing, lift lighter weights than you did yesterday. It's fine to do that. I'm really an advocate for that kind of positive, even if you just went, or even if you didn't go today, there's still time to go tomorrow. So, and it's about, for me, it's really about routine. So that kind of covers the gym aspect really. But other things I really enjoy doing. I love a good restaurant. We're sport in London for good restaurants. Not like the fancy pants ones, because apart from not being able to afford them in London, I actually like knowing a bit about the restaurant, like who's opened it, the who's running it, who's the chef, what the food, where the food's come from, like what's inspiration from the food. A bit like if you're going to the theatre or a museum, like what that sort of thing. So food is a bit. I really enjoy food.
Yeah.
I really enjoy sport. I love to ski. I was always quite a good. I was always quite lucky in that respect in terms of being able to play sport. And skiing, I really do like skiing. And the reason being, for those that aren't skiers, or maybe those that are listening, I find it the furthest from being at my desk, being on top of a mountain, going up the ski lift, dressing my ski outfit with my earphones in, and just absolutely hammering it down. Being on my own, actually. I like skiing and the camaraderie with friends and stuff, and the après ski, love. But also, I really like that quiet time where you're just alone on the top of a mountain, and it's the furthest away from a desk.
Yeah, nice. I'm definitely more of an après skier than an actual skier. But I appreciate
Yeah. Also super fun. I mean, there's some great après to be had while skiing. So yeah, super fun.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to ski, but I've not done it enough to sort of get a full sense of it. I was more of a kiddie ramp kind of vibe than top of the mountain. But yeah, it's an interesting angle to it. I really liked how passionate you talked about food. You're totally right with London. If it becomes well known, it's no longer a good restaurant. That's
Unfortunately
the
not.
them.
No,
So yeah,
I think with food, I think because we mentioned prior to actually starting maybe you pressing play that food for me is about my family. Actually, it reminds me about family, and I have a big family, and I love my family, and it just gives me comfort and gives me that warming feeling of my family wherever I am. It doesn't matter if I'm in London cooking for myself or cooking for my flatmates, which I really enjoy, or actually them cooking for me, which they're brilliant at as well. Or anyone, if I'm honest. But I think it's just that I have a connection with food because the women in my family, my sisters and my mum, and particularly my nan, who are no longer with me, unfortunately, but they were the ones that it all was orchestrated around food all the time. Who brought this, who's made that, who's making this, can you stir this? And I loved being involved in that. Very much whilst my dad and the men were watching football, I was in the kitchen with my mum and my nans and my sisters doing the food just because I loved it and I wanted that. And I was just there. I think that's why maybe you picked on the fact that I speak so passionately about it, because I like enjoying food with people, and I feel like it brings people together.
yeah, no, I agree. Even if it's bad, you can all moan about it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a couple of things that I sort of want to sort of tie up together and sort of ask a question together. So you sort of went through the corporate journey, you came into this new world, and what was the sort of reaction from that family that you've just sort of mentioned? Because I know for me personally, when I left my stable job in finance, my mum nearly fell off her chair and probably still doesn't understand why I do what I do.
Right.
But yeah, it was a tough conversation, to say the least. So it'd be interesting to see
Oh, bless you.
how. Yeah, well, I mean, I will say this, she isn't negative about it. All she wants is the best for me, and she comes from an era of stable job, career for life, gold watch, away you go type vibe, which I totally understand where she's coming from. So it's not a negative. It's just that was just the conversation, and it's almost a bit of a joke between us now. But yeah, it's like
Well, I'm
that
pleased you.
stability.
I'm pleased you've got past that, because I know it can be a lot of people. They feel like parents feel like they've almost got something. I think, as you said, they're just being protective. They just want what's best for you, and I think we kind of brush that off after the initial maybe awkwardness or argument or whatever it is to be had. But actually, my parents were extremely supportive. My dad my dad is, or was, a chartered accountant. He's retired now. So kind of knew the pressure I was under at work. And I think he recognized that there wasn't something quite right in terms of just my career, and also my well-being. But what I haven't mentioned to you is that, and I don't know whether I mentioned to you before, Lewis, I don't think you know, but I am classed as a disabled person. So I have epilepsy, and diagnosed at 19 when I was at uni. And I think because of the crap that I've been through with all of that, I've just realised, I'm sorry if I've just sworn and you've got to bleep that out, but because of the rubbish that I went through with that, I think, and every time it kind of reared its ugly head, which I have no control over, very annoyingly. But like every other person with chronic illness listening, or potentially listening to this, it just takes over your life, and you can't. It's so frustrating, and you do learn to deal with it, but there comes a point where you sometimes just need some time out. And I think I was at work was very stressful, and I'd learned to live with the epilepsy, and I'd got better even though my medication was changing a lot. We're changing consultants a lot, particularly when I was in my 20s. And, a lot was happening in terms of trying to understand, trying to get me on the right medication so I could control these seizures, which mine are the big ones. Mine are, complete pass out ones. They're called grand mal seizures. But I think they knew that I wasn't exactly on the right pathway in terms of my career. And I knew also, when I explained it to them, I couldn't do this for the rest of my life. And that I was passionate about something else. I was passionate about, mental health, well-being, and particularly men's mental health. And I think having epilepsy, and now being, trying to get into helping others with epilepsy, and helping others who are classed as disabled people. And there are a lot of which you don't know about. Because when you look at me, you might not think I was a disabled person. But yes, I am classed as a disabled person, got the badge and everything. And I didn't tell anyone at work. I didn't want anyone to know. Oh my God, if someone knows, then, but equally higher up, some people had to know, because there was a few times that I wasn't in work and I'd gone to hospital, etc. But I'm now, as you grow older, I think you really understand what's important to you in your life. So yeah, that's kind of what's come through, particularly in the last years, coming up to my early 30s, mid 30s. That's what's really important to me.
Yeah, I think I'm in my early 30s now as well.
Yeah.
I think that was a big change. It was like I actually said this the other week, and it made me kind of a bit, didn't know how to say. I said, I actually feel like a man now. I mean, I'm 30, it's only taken 32 years. Usually, it's the sort of like the legal standpoint's 18, but it's taken me a lot longer to get to what I I feel like a man, and I feel like I guess have a bit of a voice and something that I have passions, and I have things that I understand, and I have things that I want to tell people, and that I want to put my stake in the ground now, and that's me as a man, and like it's but it
I
took
think that
quite
you've explained that really, really well. I think your values, your beliefs, what you want to tell the world, what you stand for, and you've really explained it well there in terms of, your question, which you like to ask guests about what they, who you are as a man, or what that man definition means to you. And I think, like me, it took me a long time. I didn't come out until I was 29. I had a fake girlfriend at work. All the things. I didn't really know who I was. And I think that's because I wasn't believing in myself or letting my true self come out. And through the Mindful Gen and meeting guys and girls, if I'm honest, who I coach, because I don't want to discredit any ladies, but I'm trying to concentrate on guys because I feel like there's a lot of stigma still surrounding mental health. And I know men's mental health, and I know you think the same. So it's really important for me in the industry, working as a coach who supports men to, speak out and speak about my past and make sure that others are aware that, if you can't help, or if James can't help me, I know Lewis that might be able to help you or point you in the right direction, or some other coaches that I know, or, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about a retreat? All this sort of stuff, because there is a lot out there. However, a lot of guys still don't action it. There is a lot of stuff there, but guys that I know and that I worked with in the corporate world are still very much, oh no, I wouldn't do that. Oh no, that's not for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's quite strange because ever since let's say let's just throw him out there because it's just the easiest person to throw out there. Ever since Andrew Tate sort of grew in popularity, what I've actually noticed sort of over the last 2-3 years is that far side of the man stereotype is now doing more sort of wellness activities, like they're going on retreats, they're chopping wood, they're starting fires, they're going camping.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other side of that spectrum, which is someone that probably always had that conversation about it, whether internally or with a coach, about how they were feeling, how they progress, what that looks like. And it is almost in that sort of middle ground, that sort of corporate, almost white collar, sort of going into blue collar, to use some American terms, I guess, that are sort of still fighting this battle of like, I don't want to have these conversations. Whereas we have almost the polar opposites are the people that are having these conversations.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. One, this is that kind of man is like your granddad who would probably say 3 words to your nana, and that would be his conversation for the week with her. Is now having conversations with other men. So what that looks like in the future is probably going to be great. And it's just now trying to, as you said, there's going to be different people that people resonate with, and it's just finding that person and just finding that person to listen to. And it might not be one person, it might be 2, 3, 4 people that you sort of take little snippets from, and that creates your idea of mindfulness, your idea of self-development, your idea of moving forward.
And I think that's for all of my clients and for all of the people that ask me, how can you help me? Or do you know, the hardest thing is the first step is coming forward. You've actually asked for help, right? And a lot of guys find they just can't ask for help, right? It's just too much. And I totally understand that. I've been there. I've been at my desk and been like not doing any work and been like, shit, I can't get through this. It's awful. It's got really bad. But I think now with the avenues and the amount of support, you, me, the guys in the industry coming through, recognizing that, we've got a valid story to tell others. And if you can tell it, and it is really difficult sometimes to tell your own story. Like today, I was really nervous coming on here. I've never done a podcast before, but actually, I've really enjoyed it because if I can help one other person, and by doing this, actually come out of their shell or their rut that they've been in, and reach out to you, to me, to anyone else that's been on your amazing podcast, and get them to help them in any way possible to move forward, we would have done our jobs, surely. It's not about how many clients. It's not. I don't care how many clients I've got, or how many, how much money I'm making, or obviously I've got to pay my mortgage and that sort of stuff. But I changed career because I wanted to actually make some sort of difference. And the reason why I do the mindfulness activities is because I can see the guys who are, because of, whatever reasons, relationship, COVID, work, they come into my space and I try and create a really safe space. And you see it over a period of time, but they do come out of the shell. They do, you can see them opening up. It doesn't have to be me. It can be someone they're just having a chat with, someone they just met. But I think it's just so nice to provide that avenue. Women have a lot of this, and I'm not saying all women, please don't come at me with, I'm slightly worried about how I phrase it, but I'm just saying women have had these groups and, networks for a long time, and men haven't. You only had two avenues, and we've spoken about them. Basically, the pub, where you watch football and you drink beer, or you go to the gym. Now, I was never that bothered about the pub. I'm not a football fan, not really, and I'm not, because of my epilepsy, I can't drink loads and loads. So that kind of rules out the pub. And then if you're the guy that at the gym and you feel like you've got to lift the most weights at the gym to impress everyone, where does that leave you? I think that's what I'm trying to provide. I'm trying to bridge the gap. I'm just saying to guys, look, there is a lot of other things you can do. Of course, joining a riding club, joining a rowing club, joining all the other stuff. I'm just not pointing it at the Mindful Gent, that's what I'm creating, but I'm just saying there are other avenues. If you just think about it, what do you truly value? What do you truly want? What do you truly enjoy? And that's what's gonna, that might just make the difference in your happiness.
Yeah, I think what you said there is, in a roundabout way, which I really champion and I think people should do, is just because you're older or you have other responsibilities and things like this, we lose this excitement to try new things and test new things and see what might click and what might be fun to do. Like, there are an infinite ways of keeping fit. I mean, we now have actual buildings with plastic mountains in them that you can go and climb on if you feel that way inclined. Like, there are plenty of things that you can try. And I've used that as an example. Something I've never done, but why haven't I tried it? At least gone for sort of one session, or gone for a run or a walk or fishing, but just an infinite amount of things that you can try and go and find other people to talk to. I think one thing that you said as well, which is like, that people in these group sessions end up talking to themselves, and there's a charity in Australia that's also been mirrored here in the UK, and it's basically Men with Shed, and it's like,
I know about Men with Shed.
It's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you go and fix something or do some potting plants. And
Yeah,
I've always thought that as like you don't actually have to have the conversation directly about mindfulness, but if you're doing something that's mindful for yourself, you get that byproduct anyway. So yeah, I love things like that. I think they're
yeah,
cool.
no, actually, I hadn't heard of that, but a really good friend of mine, shout out to Dan Chapman Harris, he he sent he sent me it, and actually, I don't actually remember if it was Dan or Rich, his partner. So shout out and love them both, but one of them sent me it, and I looked at it, and you can it's so fascinating that you can take this what they've done in Australia, and as you said, they've brought it over here, and you can kind of build, you can have one of those, you can have a shed in your own space and invite other men, like-minded guys, to work on craft or work on woodwork or work on whatever it is, and just to be there, amongst guys doing what you both enjoy. And I recently went to a gay board game meeting, which they do at a pub in Elephant and Castle. Super fun, and I'm sure, I don't know if you've been watching The Traitors recently or BBC, but they do something similar called Werewolves. And I was really nervous about it. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure about going, and like, oh God, what's it going to be like? I don't really know how to play, and how am I going to feel? And I'm always a bit awkward when I don't know anyone there, and etc. Anyway, I got down to, I think I was at 7 out of 30, and I was buzzing. I absolutely loved it, honestly. I was buzzing. I had a shit card, and I played terribly, but I got down to 7 out of 30, and everyone was so nice, so friendly, and just really felt so much better after going. And I think that's the thing. If you might not be able to go the first, the second, or even the 10th time you've thought about it, but even if you get your foot in the door, and then I'm sure you'll be away, because you might connect to someone, and as you say, you might connect to someone or the activity, but it's just getting there and doing it, which I think can really have an effect and change on your mental well-being. You can look for this thing might be once a week or once a fortnight, but you'll be looking forward to it, and that's what's really nice.
No, definitely. And I think I'm going to ask you a question in a second, which I've sort of been told before. So I went to Madrid last year, back end of last year, for a business accelerator. I was invited out there, so I met people from all over the world. It was amazing, and there was a number of gay men on the course, and I got talking to them about what I was trying to do and what I was trying to build. And one of them said to me that he has a lot of male friends, and that are straight, and
Yeah.
they come to him for support and those sort of conversations, because he says he thinks straight men, once they reach a certain age, find it so hard to make new friends, whereas for gay men, he said for him personally anyway, a self-proclaimed introvert as well. He said that it was quite easy for him to make new friends, and he thinks that's probably something that's sort of missing in the straight world, shall we say, as well.
I think it's a really interesting question and topic you bring up. When we were at school, and being gay or being associated with anything gay was the worst thing that you could ever think about, wasn't it? Literally was. If you were gay in any way, or if that thing you had was gay or whatever, blah blah blah, awful, horrific. Now, when you're slightly older, and I feel like I have two really good friends that are straight. They've got lovely wives, and one has just had their third child. I think, or they tell me, that they open up to me more than they do anyone else. And I think it's because they feel more comfortable, because I'm not going to judge them, because because as a gay man, and because I know that my community is much more open, I feel like it's more open than the straight world, that they can tell me whatever it is that's going on, or they're having an issue with, that they wouldn't tell their straight mate at the pub whilst watching football, or their straight mate at the gym whilst, trying to help them with the weight. It's not something they would discuss. So when I meet my really good mate of mine in Clapham Common, and we get coffee and whatever, we're chatting, I know that he will just open up to me, or vice versa, actually, because there's no real judgment from him. And I know that, again, that community provides a safe space for straight men. I know it does. And actually, a good friend of mine was here when I did the launch for the Mindful Gen, and it was him and a lot of gay guys. And I think he just mentioned to me that, he felt the happiest he did in a while, because everything that was going on with his life, he just wasn't thinking about whilst he was here being surrounded by us, because we were just, so friendly and so open, and, it was taking his mind off of it. And I think it provides escapism for straight men speaking to a gay man. And our world is a bit, it's interesting and crazy and, insightful to you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. But I think we provide a level of comfort. And I think we provide a world where actually it's okay to let your guard down, and okay to speak about what you're really feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know the answer, but yeah, you do. I think. I mean, I'm quite open anyway. I'll speak to anyone who will listen, so it doesn't really bother me. And I am in a bit in a fortunate position that ever since I started doing this, a lot of my friends are now having conversations with me. It's almost like as soon as I said, "Oh, I'll talk about it," they're happy to talk.
That's so lovely. That's really lovely. And how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think you mentioned it before, like if one person reaches out to you, we've done our job. I remember recording the first episode of this. I had no vision of turning it into a business. I was literally, it was my therapy. I didn't want to go down the traditional route. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do a podcast, I'm going to speak to men, and that is going to be cathartic for me. And I did the first one and I put it up. And within an hour of it being up, I got a message from a guy that I went to school with that I hadn't spoken to in 17 years saying, this is the best thing ever. I'm so happy that you've done this.
That's amazing.
And then literally a long paragraph of what was going on with them. And we actually ended up doing an episode together further down the line, which was amazing. So yeah, for me, it's great. And I thoroughly enjoy it. I think straight men need to come out of the mindfulness closet, because once we're out, it's great, and you can actually start to have those conversations anyway. So
again, everyone's different, so everyone's gonna all men are different. But I think what's important is that we do have something in common, that when we're together and away from and you're doing something that is mindful, as you just mentioned, and you're with other men, there is it doesn't matter of your sexuality or what you identify as, it's like for women, there is something that brings you together. You can't describe it, you can't explain it, and you'll connect with, you might connect with someone more than others, but there is something about being in a group of guys. And particularly guys that have played sport, because I really miss playing competitive sport, and it's something that is a goal of mine to get back into. And the camaraderie, I can't even say the word, but when you're playing sport and you're together, I think it's great. I think it's really, it is really nice, and very much so like a mindfulness activity. when you're together with guys you either know or don't know, there is something magical about that. And that's really what I'm an advocate for, and what I'm trying to create as part of my business.
Yeah, amazing. It is. I agree. I think I did a talk at like 14 men in a room, and it started off really great. And if I was to do it again, I would change it around. We all sat around in a circle at the end, and it felt more like man anonymous rather than what it started out as. But initially, everyone was just talking, and it was a really good buzz. But when we sat down and had a bit more of an in-depth conversation, it became a little bit more man anonymous, shall we say? But it was still very, and I enjoyed the idea of getting people together and getting people in the room, and I think it does work. It's just getting people in the rooms that is the tricky bit at the moment. But I'm sure
it's getting people in the rooms. I think also it's because it's the fear of the unknown, isn't it? Right. So it, and you all, when you're first there, you first get in, you're like, oh, I don't know these guys. Like, oh, some people find it so overwhelming, and this is the reason why they can't do it. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, and try when I coach guys who are so scared that they can't go to an event like this, an event like your example, or even one of my mindfulness events, that it's just all about a process. You don't have to think about it right this second, or you can there are ways of doing it that you'll get there eventually. And I think it's really important that you think positively and read feedback about where you're going, and imagine yourself being there, and imagine yourself having a great time and meeting people and benefiting it for you, for no one else. You're doing this for yourself. And I think a lot of guys that are nervous, or they're anxious, or their anxiety plays a big part in this. I know a lot of clients, actually even friends, deal with high levels of anxiety, in terms of where they sit, where they stand, how they hold their drink. Like, there is a world out there you might not even recognize if you don't suffer with anxiety, but it's really, really difficult and hard to deal with. So I understand, I do. And, if there's any way that I can help, of course I will.
Yeah, it is tricky. I have friends who are like, I would love to play football again, but they just don't even know how to go. They were
Yeah.
just like, they know the second they get there, they would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But they're like, I don't know how I'd even get there.
Yeah, it's hard because with something like football, or as we're talking about group events, you're going to enjoy it when you get there. But it's almost like the effort in organising is one part of it. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But also the kind of, and the willingness to go is another part of it. But also this anxiety level tops it. So when you deal with those three things, you really break them down, and you say, right, okay, you write them down, if you do a mind map, or however your brain works, and we'll figure that out in a session, but you really figure out what is weighing you not doing this in terms of the benefits of doing this for you. And eventually you'll get to, where you want to be. It might take time, but that's okay. It can take time. There's no rush.
Well, we both sort of said that right at the beginning, right? You said it 18 months and sort of 2 years, and even now it's still a little bit of.
Yeah. Oh, very much. I think that's really important as well for us to say. Having been through it and got out the other side, you still have to deal with the stuff with your going on every day. People that, for example, get over their huge bouts of anxiety or depression, it doesn't just go away. they then have to learn to deal with it every day. And it's about practicing, it's about meditation, it's about mindfulness, it's about all the things that that work. And it's different for everyone and each individual person. And what I dislike about wellness and well-being at the moment is, in particular, is that there's so many things, I think, that are on social media for you to get over this batch of anxiety or depression or whatever you're suffering with. That's just an example, not limited to. That people find it's really overwhelming, and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. Just going to leave it how it is because it's all too expensive, or I don't understand. I've listened to 5 different things and I'm now confused, and I don't blame them. But
Yeah.
there are avenues, and you know, what I really, and if someone who's listening feels like that and is overwhelmed, the first thing to do, I think, is to go to your partner or to go to your closest friend and to you know, have a chat with them and explain to them how you're feeling. They will, you know, if they're close to you and you're close to them, then I'm sure they will do the best they can to help you get on your journey of making you feel better and getting well. So, you know, if there's anyone listening and they're not sure, because I know, you know, coaches and counselors and psychologists and podcasts and signing up to things and all this stuff, it's expensive, and it's, you know, but that's the first thing that you can do. Speak to someone else. Yeah.
Awesome. Tough question now, James. I think it's time for a toughie. So we're talking about what works and what works for men. What do you think is What do you think is missing in the men's space right now? More James, right?
Oh God, no. I mean, so I think men collaborating with men more. So, for example, today you reached out to me, and you know, you very kindly said, and you gave me the opportunity today. I think that's what the world needs: more people giving other people in high places, or people in places that can offer people opportunity, giving people more opportunity, particularly men, in the wellness, well-being, fitness industry. Giving someone your time for free, giving a boost, giving your experience, giving your knowledge, not telling them what to do, but just saying, here's what I did, or how can I help you? That sort of thing. I think that is what's missing. And I am more than happy if someone comes to me and says, you know, and it's happened a few times, you know, James, I can't afford what you're offering, what you're asking for in terms of coaching. So I say to them, okay, you appreciate that, you know, I'm a business and I've got to pay my rent and buy my groceries like you. So, you know, let's come to an agreement. What can you afford? What can we do to get you from where you are now to where you want to be? So that's what I try and do.
Yeah.
If it's not the full thing, I try and do bits or parts of, because I want to help this person. They come to you for advice, then try and give them something of yours. I think that's what I would say to the question. Other men collaborating with each other to boost each other up and help each other out. Starting your own business, as I've just done, is very hard. I was going to swear then, but I didn't. It's very difficult. It can be, you know, very lonely, and you're on your own a lot, dealing with things that you've never dealt before. It's hard. Reach out to someone, see if they want help, connect with them, say hi. And honestly, you'll get it back tenfold if you do that. It's amazing.
There we go. That's the answer to the tough question. I think I agree on a number of points there. I think one thing that I've always said is this problem is huge. It will not be solved by one man and one man alone. It needs a number of men working on it together. So I completely agree
Absolutely.
with the collaboration. Yeah, there's like you're almost deluded if you think you're going to be the sole solution to the problem. So, like removing of ego and just having open conversations and collaborating with people, I completely agree with. You touched on it a little bit. I decided to move it to the end because it was throwing people off at the beginning, but I think you came prepared. So, James, in your own words, what makes you a man?
So I thought about this, and I think the one I've listened to. Well, I've listened to most of the episodes before, and I think you either sprung it on them. They didn't. They were. It's quite a challenging question to answer. So, in my very uneloquent style and person that struggles with getting their words out, so excuse me in that. But I think it's about being just being yourself. Not worrying about what the stereotypical set of traits of masculinity and years and history as what is defined as being male or a man. But try and I think it's about, for me, it's about a broad range of qualities, being empathetic, being vulnerable, having compassion for other people, and doing things with integrity, and making other people feel seen and heard. Because when I've lived my life by that, you feel like you're making a difference to that person, but also growing yourself. I'm offering advice and coaching, two different things, of course, but I really enjoy the coaching side of it. I can see someone really coming out of their shell, working with them, from getting where they were to getting where they are now is amazing. And being part of that journey for someone is just incredible. I love it. That's why I love being a coach. But what makes someone a man or me a man, I think, is their own personal values, beliefs, their experiences, and being their true, authentic self.
Awesome. I still love that question because even if you're prepared,
it's a great question. I know, and it really throws you. It really throws you off. I think the question that I had prepared, the answer that I had prepared, I did not say. But it's a great question, I think it's all about your own values and beliefs. Thank you very much for asking me. Thank you so much for having me today. I've really enjoyed it. It's a bit like a therapy session.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? It's cathartic. I've loved it. Honestly, James, thank you so much for your time today. Genuinely appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, Les. It's been great.
If people want to find you, where's the best place to go and find you?
Yes, so they can visit www.themindfulgent.com. All of my information is on there, and Instagram also, The Mindful Gent on Instagram, and my LinkedIn is James Bryant. I don't know whether you guys can have stuff on the podcast, but that'd be great if you can. But The Mindful Gent, it is.
Amazing. Once again, thank you so much, James, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you so much.